Based on details at the scene, we believe this was an isolated, targeted attack on our victims.
He's very quiet, calculated about what he says.
I want to see an innocent man, but I feel like he's just scared to look at me in the eyes.
If you plead guilty or found guilty, it is up to death and or imprisonment for life. Do you understand?
Yes.
It is the case that captured our nation because of the tragedy of what took place. 4 young college students murdered for no reason whatsoever. This was horrible. This was horrific. Out in Moscow, Idaho, you had Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee, 4 young people who were just living their best lives, right? Doing what every college student does. They're doing a little bit better than some other college students. I mean, they had things happening in their lives. It was all taken away. And now they've arrested the man they believe is responsible. Court TV was there all fall into the winter of last year as this mystery was being revealed, and finally an arrest. And now Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter is back outside the crime scene in Moscow, Idaho tonight. Chanley, great to see you. Thank you so much. Let's start with what's behind you. This house, which has been such a focal point of everything, because this is where the murders took place, and we just couldn't understand how that could happen. And it looks like things are boarded up. What is the status of this house in terms of being a scene for evidence, gathering evidence and trying to forensically figure out what happened to those 4 young people?
Yeah, Vinny, it's great to be with you. We're back here in Moscow, Idaho. It's been 4 months exactly yesterday since those brutal murders inside this house behind me. And you have it right, it looks a lot different than it did the last time that we were here. As you can see, there's a metal fence around the home. The windows, the door boarded up, no trespassing signs. There's, of course, the private security, Hills Canyon security posted out front. This home was handed over from law enforcement to the owner of the property, and the owner of the property has gifted it to the University of Idaho, which is steps away, as you know. The private security here to make sure no one crosses any of the crime scene tape or has access to the home is provided by the University of Idaho. That's who they're contracted with, Vinny. As far as we know, the house has not been cleaned on the inside as of now, but looks very different and a very different feel here in the neighborhood, Keene Road, where we are. I can see the university. It is spring break week this week, but still very busy on this street. And you can have a sense of relief a little bit now that there's been an arrest, and this community does seem to be slowly moving on.
We remember how on edge everyone was because no one knew, like, who did this? Why would they do that? Are they still out there? Are they going to strike again? All of those thoughts. So is the evidence gathering portion of the investigation in the house behind you, is that over now?
That is over. Law enforcement completed the investigation inside. We were here when, Kohberger was, of course, arrested, and his defense. Kootenai County Public Defender Ann Taylor was actually seen in this home even before it was announced that she was taking over his case in his defense. Had a private investigator. They've done their work here. The defense team has as well. So law enforcement has closed the investigation, evidence gathering inside. It's been passed over to the owner, who has now gifted it to the university, Vinny, and the university has plans to demolish this home at some point.
And at some point, do we think that's going to be before or after a trial in this case? Do we have any idea?
It's unclear. So Court TV has reached out to the property management company who's still helping the university with this property. Here's what they told Court TV. They said that, of course, no entry is allowed into this building. Even after remediation or the cleaning of the inside of this property, the house will be demolished after it is cleaned, and there's no date set for demolition, according to Team Idaho Property Management. Also, the University of Idaho, who now owns this property, Vinny, Scott Green, has released a statement. It says that the owner of the King Street house offered to give the house to the university, which we accepted. The house will be demolished. This is a healing step and removes the physical structure where the crime that shook our community was committed. Demolition also removes efforts to further sensationalize the crime scene. We are evaluating opinions where students may be involved in the future development of the property. Sometimes it is hard to see beyond this tragedy, but the selfless acts, the deep engagement and loving support of our entire Vandal family reminds me that there is so much good in the world. We will never forget Xana, Ethan, Madison, and Kaylee, and I will do everything in my power to protect their dignity and respect their memory. Together we rebuild and continue to support each other. We are Vandals strong. So it's, again, unclear the time frame of when this home would be demolished. Vinny, will it be before or after the trial? Next week, we don't know. The private security here doesn't even know. It's kind of to the foreseen future of how long they will protect this property. Those that live in this area, they're kind of unsure what the university is going to do. With this property. Will they turn it into a memorial, rebuild more student housing? Some that live here would love a parking lot because this is a very steep hill in the wintertime that gets a little slippery. So we shall see.
Are there any plans to build any sort of memorial for the 4 students?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, Scott Green, again, with the University of Idaho, has also talked about what they plan to do to memorialize the victims in this case. And it's a garden. Here's that statement. He says that they're in the early planning stages to create a memorial to the 4 students. It says while the memorial will be a focal point of a garden, the garden will also be a place of remembrance of other students we have lost and a place of healing for those left behind. So a university committee with student representation is developing a plan. The garden design will incorporate class and individual student participation, and it will be located on the Moscow campus, but the exact location is yet to be identified. Maybe that's going to be here at the home, Benny. Maybe that's where this garden will be, or maybe it will be some other place on a very beautiful campus already.
Yeah, I hope they do it sooner rather than later because the students are still on campus that need the healing the most. Let's talk about what's happening online now. They're now blurring this house online when you search it on maps.
Yeah, Vinny, so as you know, as we've been following this case for months, weeks, online sleuths really did start digging in to any piece of information online, the victims, who could be responsible. And one of those discoveries about a month after the murders happened was a realization that if you search for this home on Google Maps, that it would be blurred. And we have an example. Let's watch.
Google is blurring their house out.
So watch what happens. That's the house.
So there it is. That's what it would look like if you try to, use Google Maps. And, it's actually really easy to have a home like this blurred for privacy reasons, and it's probably the owner that had this blurred with all the attention that was being placed on this home, people wanting to find out the floor plan, look inside, around the area from afar. You can actually Google it, Vinny, follow a few steps and submit your address to the people there at Google. For privacy concerns, possibly safety reasons why people would want to do this, and so that was another part of this that stood out to those online sleuths. And now, this is going to be a home no more. It's going to be at some point demolished and turned into something else.
Yeah, but it almost seems like they're trying to erase it, and you don't want to necessarily erase it. It happened. The trial hasn't occurred yet, and we've got to figure out everything here. This is an interesting way it's being dealt with. Let me bring in the rest of our guests joining us tonight. From Long Beach, California, forensic criminologist Dr. Laura Pettler, and in Jacksonville, Alabama, forensic death investigator, professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, and the host of the Body Bags podcast, Joseph Scott Morgan. Great to see you. What are your thoughts first? Laura, I'll go first. Is it common to destroy a home that is the scene of a quadruple murder before a trial?
You know, I don't think it's common to destroy any crime scene before trial. And in some states, there are laws like North Carolina that require prosecutors to preserve certain types of evidence until either the sentence is completed in a trial or the death of the defendant occurs. So I don't think it's very usual. Has it happened? I'm sure, but I don't think it's extremely common.
Joseph Scott Morgan, I understand the sensitivity here. This is a horrific case. All murders are, but we haven't had a trial yet. Sometimes they do things called jury views. We just saw that down in South Carolina. Are you surprised that there's talk of destroying the scene of this crime before even the preliminary hearing?
I'm not surprised, given what they had done that I completely disagree with early on in this investigation, when they allowed individuals to go in and collect personal items for sentimentality, which I thought was absolutely absurd at that time, particularly given the fact that you had upcoming charges relative to the defense. I don't know if that was on their radar yet, but, you know, when the defense's representatives went out there, they didn't see the scene in the pristine condition. So now you're going to take it to another step and eradicate the structure. I don't see the value in doing this. As a matter of fact, there is potentially a real downside relative to this if this thing comes up on appeal or if there's any problems whatsoever trying to capture the flavor of this scene for the jury to comprehend it, to understand it. There's a lot of value in taking people out to locales. We did see it in Murdaugh. Hey, we saw it with the Parkland shooting, didn't we?
Absolutely. I really, I'm very baffled by these developments, and I think there's a disconnect between the obviously sensitivity and the tragedy on a college campus, but we still have to attempt to prosecute the person that is believed to be responsible, and we know how tenuous. You can think at home, oh, it's obvious. No, nothing is automatic. No. Nothing is easy. There's a huge burden of proof, and it will be a battle. All right, Joseph Scott Morgan, Laura Pettler staying with us, Chanley Painter staying with us as well. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the unsealed warrants. Chanley has some more information for us tonight. Do not go anywhere.
Budding romance allegedly cut short by a jealous ex-boyfriend.
The defendant told him, my ex was getting serious with this guy, and she was happy.
Single father of two, missing for nearly 3 years.
We have no explanation of what happened to him. We have no explanation of where Mr. Anderson would have put a body.
Court TV cameras are taking you inside the courtroom as this case unfolds.
The obsessed ex-boyfriend murder trial. Coverage continues weekdays at 8, 7 Central.
I'm gonna get a free quote today.
Welcome back, folks. We got a lot to get to here. Chanley Painter is in Moscow, Idaho. She is going through some of this evidence. Tell me about the newly released warrants for Tinder.
Yeah, Vinny, so there were about 60 warrants in all recently signed by a judge to be redacted and released in part, like 700 pages worth of documents just posted online from multiple companies requiring them to turn over certain items. So we have been scouring through these. They're from anywhere from like social media accounts, Google accounts, cell phone records, everything really, but bank account information, not just of Kohberger, but these are from the victims. This is from November of last year, before they even really had their sights set on Kohberger. So it's very revealing of the extensiveness of this investigation. And yes, Tinder stood out among the search warrants that were released. Here's what we've learned: that the warrant for Tinder requested information about Kaylee Goncalves' account from around January 2021, and around 20 redacted profiles linked to her Tinder account for November 3rd of last year to present. Also for Maddie Mogen, her account from January 1st, 2021, and for about 20 redacted profiles linked to her account in the month of March 2021. And then also a search warrant for Bryan Kohberger's Tinder account information from June 1st, 2021. Now, Many of the details remain sealed or redacted in these documents, so we don't know a lot, but it is really interesting to see what was requested and then what was returned, and that they had these particular victims and the defendant had this profile on Tinder, Vinny.
Laura Petler, your thoughts about this request for documents from Tinder?
I think that they are taking a deep dive into the victimology, as they should, and I think that it's a great idea to research every single thing that you can find about victims in a homicide case, because they're looking to tie Kohberger to the victim somehow and potentially give the jury a reason why he would have targeted them, or if there was any connection between them. So I think that's a great idea that they're taking the deep dive into the social media.
All right, Chanley, what about these warrants for UPS?
Yeah, this was another one that stood out to us. So the authorities sent a warrant to UPS requesting certain things. Here's a look at that document, Vinny. It says any and all video that is recorded and stored on any delivery trucks that were in Moscow, Idaho between the dates of November 6th, 2022 through November 14th, 2022. That's the time of the murder. November 13th will be the murder day. And then there's a receipt of property for each of these. And again, mostly redacted things, but delivery truck video was turned over from Moscow during that time. Vinny, what does this video show that's important here in Moscow? Also, there was a bank that was subpoenaed to turn over video of their exterior camera footage as well.
Joseph Scott Morgan, this video is so important in this case, and it looks like they were looking everywhere.
Yeah, you bet. They're going to look for any videography. Do you remember, Vin, back early on, they were asking for people that had indwelling cameras in cars. The brand Tesla came up for some reason back then. They were looking for any kind of video that may have come off of vehicles. They're searching high and low for any hits that they can, because it's not just about the day. It's not just about the day of these horrendous murders. It's about the time leading up. You know, when you begin to think about predatory activity relative to Kohberger, tracking, stalking, those sorts of things that go into this. Can you establish some kind of continuum here with him? How far in the past are they going to go, looking to see if he's passing by this location or any of the locations that they can correlate with the movement of the victims on any other given day? Was he tracking them as well? So there's a lot of cross matching that could potentially go in here. And to Dr. Laura's point, they are doing certainly a deep dive. There's going to be a lot of the algorithmic reconstruction that goes on here, I think, trying to tie back his phone, their phones, also any kind of social media hits, all those sorts of things where he could have been watching them from afar. They would not have known it.
How about knife sales, Chanley? Warrants for knife sales?
Yeah, this was a big one, Vinny, that stood out because we knew early on some sort of a K-bar knife, right, was involved in the murder. So here's what many of these warrants covered overall. There's one for eBay purchases of K-bar knives and sheaths, Walmart, Amazon, different types of these K-bar knives, Blue Ridge knives, particularly specify purchase dates of March 8th and June 24th. In those warrants. And then, of course, K-bar knives, the company turned over several different models of knives and sheaths to the authorities, Vinny, and in their search for the murder weapon.